We're back again on Breakfast Central, not Breakfast Extra, because you could see something is going on right here, yeah? Judith Etibi joins us on Breakfast Central today on a Tuesday morning. Well, it's obvious because the trio, the duo out of the trio have decided to, they didn't jackpot, but they just decided to, you know, go on an assignment. So we're saying,
hey, your lonesome self.
Exactly. So we give them out on loan. They will be playing just 2 games, or better still 3, and then they'll be back. But it's good to have you, Judith.
Thank you for having me. Thank you. It's always good to be on the vocal point of News Central. Central.
Yeah. I mean, we're here every morning. I mean, you do it every weekend, and it's good to have you on a weekday, so to say. For those who are watching, this is Judith Etibi. You will always catch her weekends on Breakfast Extra, but she's not going to do the extra today. She's going to do the central. So she's at the center. I mean, are you trying to align with the center? You know,
yes. Like on your mandate, of course.
Okay. Well, I didn't say anything. Anyway, welcome. Today is another day where we'll talk about the latest stories and news from around different parts of Nigeria. And we would be doing this not alone. Of course, we'll be having our guests who will join us here today on Breakfast Central. 3 full hours. 3 full hours.
Oh, yes, indeed.
You're used to the 3 hours already because of the weekend. For us, we started at 3 hours in April. And I think we're waxing strong.
Yeah. So far, and you guys have done fantastically well as well for the last, for 3 hours. At first, I know how it was hard to think of how to extend it, but then, of course, you guys knocked it out of the park, and congratulations to yourself and the entire team.
Thank you. And the guys are working from behind the scenes. Thank you so much. Well, full stretch, conversations everywhere, especially the one focused on Benue State.
Right.
The Benue killings, the Benue Massacre in quotes, which truly is a real massacre, has been in the conversation for so long. And I don't think we're going to stop. We will not stop. We will not stop. Any way you want to put it. We will continue to talk about it.
Absolutely.
I don't know what you thought about it when you saw the video.
Look, I've tried to stay away from those videos as much as I can, just because I understand how I am temporarily with, you know, just seeing this type of visuals. But it is heart-wrenching. My heart goes out to the entire, you know, the families who are affected by this, the communities who are affected by these, the mothers, the fathers, you know, just all the individuals, and even those who are away from Benue State themselves, who are outside and having to be affected by this violence, this senseless killings that we're seeing in the state. And it also is very worrying, Joe. Just weeks ago, or should I say barely a week, or 2 weeks just when we heard that the head of the Nigerian defense was going to, you know, relocate to Makurdi, the capital, Benue State, and, you know, make sure that all of the power, all of their resources are channeled towards the killings and the stopping of this violence. Just weeks after, we're seeing this happen in Yelewata, and it's just unbelievably heart-wrenching and sad.
You've said it all. It's heart-wrenching. I mean, till now, I'm not able to bring myself to watch those videos, because I don't want to stand having some thoughts streamlined down my memory, and it's hard to erase. Whether we like it or not, we are Nigerians first. I keep saying that here on the program. Before you become a minister, senator, president, you are first in Nigeria. And as long as you've agreed to live in the country and say you're Nigerian, and then this happens. But we did have our new central team move into Benue, and they did a lot of talking, a lot of uncovering. And one of the persons they spoke with was, the IG was there yesterday. Egbetokun himself, the IGP, was there. The governor finally came out.
Hi, Alia.
Yes, Reverend Father, Governor Alia. Governor has about 3, designates to his name.
Title.
To his title, 3 titles: Reverend, Father, Governor. And his height. Anyway.
And doctor.
Yes, and doctor as well.
Yeah.
He was there. Finally, he came out, he spoke, and that was quite expected. It was about time we felt that he would come out and speak, aside from the video that was circulated yesterday where he was seated in the governor's house, or in his house, better still, and he was receiving a call from the president where he was saying, yes, sir, yes, sir. So there are 3 tales to this story. The IGP spoke, the governor spoke, we do have the farmer also spoke, And the president made a statement yesterday.
Finally.
Yeah. But it didn't also go down well with netizens.
Yeah, of course.
A section of Nigerians, cross-section of Nigerians, because of a line in that statement. Our job here is to look at everything in totality.
Right.
I think we'll start off first by looking at the first video that we have, because our reporter and, of course, the team at News Central swung into action and showed that we arrived at Benue State yesterday. And we did a lot of combing round, looking for more information, investigative journalism at its best, because that's what News Central stands for at its peak. And that's exactly what we did. Joshua Marayi decided to lead the team, but let's see what the farmer, there's a farmer who actually spoke. Very sad situation. Let's see if we could put that video up, and then we'll react to it in the course of the conversation.
My people, my family members, they died in this house, 11, and some died in the other stores, 8. Some died here. My whole family members that died yesterday, day before yesterday, on that very day, there were 20. That is my own family members. I'm not talking about any other thing. That is my own family members. This is my store. Those shops are my stores. Those places are being burned.
Please walk.
Those places, this place is being burned. Here and up, my house is up there. That place also is burned. And the store where I pack my goods, I store my goods everywhere, has burned. They burned my clothes, they burned everything, they burned our food, all my family members. What we came out with is our clothes, what we wear. And I, standing here, this is what I came out with. And this is the only thing that I have. There's no anything with me. On that very day, rain started in the evening. So we entered, I slept there. So I was sleeping around 10:20. We had gunshot at back there. So before we could notice that something is happened, Fulani men, they entered this place.
How are you sure they are Fulani men?
Because they were speaking and I was inside the room and I heard them clearly. Not somebody told me. I was inside the room there and they surrounded that room. I escaped narrowly. My brothers born in this house. Some escaped. My dad born in this house.
It's a store. It's built for storage.
Let's go inside. Can we?
We do.
So I see you have grains inside.
Yeah, of course, yes, sir.
And I can see some motorcycles.
Of course, yes, sir.
Let us estimate.
Yeah.
As to what amount did you lose here?
Sir, I can't say sorry precise because it's over millions. Over millions of nairas that I'm losing in this store.
What do you store particularly here?
I store grains like guinea corn, maize, soya beans, rice, and we still have yams in our village because of this crisis. I have to be sincere.
Let me take a break inside.
Heart-wrenching is the word to describe that video that you watched. That's Joshua Marayi, our correspondent, live from the scene of the violence that broke out in the Yelewata community, speaking to farmers who were affected by that attack. And you can see them recounting what has happened. I got goosebumps and chills, and so does Joe. That man, the first farmer, recounted about 18 of his family members are dead. That's what he said there. The other also showed the level of destruction, not only to their crops, but also to their equipment. And that's just a small fracture, just a miniature of what has happened in those communities. And what I take away from there, just besides, you know, the lives that are lost and the properties, was also the fact that these were herders. I mean, you could hear from them. Now, again, the identity of who these herders are still up for questioning. But one thing is certain, we're having issues with armed herders in agrarian communities, and that's what is at the core of this. How can we, you know, start to de-escalate these issues and come into those places that are affected, because people's livelihoods are affected as well. People's homes are affected. How are they going to continue with their lives? These are agrarian, communities, like I said earlier, and their livelihood is farming. And we already have a situation when it comes to food insecurity. So, Joe, very heart-wrenching, I will say.
It is. It is. I mean, that's a young man, and you know what's more painful? It's the fact that these people were just leading and living their lives like every normal Nigerian. And then all of a sudden, the attacks came.
Right.
20 persons. That you imagine, it's like a complete wipeout of your family.
Absolutely.
A father is gone, brothers gone, relatives gone. And not just that, they've even taken away the livelihood, how you would survive, especially in tough times like this. Grains, rice, motorcycles, like Joshua was speaking to this young man here as well. He said he used here for storage.
Right.
And one would start to wonder, is the act aimed at repressing? Is the act aimed at stealing? Because if they are taking grains and just attacked the people, took food, we say, okay, fine, they came to steal food. But these guys didn't just come, they came to cause mayhem and kill. And that's exactly what we've seen. Destruction.
It lived destruction, a trail of destruction at their footstep. Now, we also did speak to, we had a chance to hear from the IGP of police for Benue State, for the nation, as well as the head of the Nigerian defense as well, and that's General Christopher Musa, and also from the governor. But let's start with the security forces, what they had to say about this attack. Take a look.
Everywhere. You see, when one incident happened, hundreds of incidents have been prevented that are not known to the public. So that this happened does not mean that we have not been deploying. We have actually been deploying. We've been working together with the military and with other security agencies to ensure that this reign of impunity of these criminal elements ends. And we are committed to this. This attack on the peaceful Yelewata community is one attack too many. It is not just an attack on the people of Benue State. It's an attack on the entire nation. And we are not going to accept it. The people of this community are not alone. We are with them. The entire Nigerian communities are with them. A day will come when these bandits will come to operate as they used to, and they will never return. That day is drawing nearer. I can assure you that we are committed to fight this battle and win this war. My appeal to the community is to cooperate with us. They know their environment more than anyone else. They should give us information. They know the strangers. They can recognize strange movements. They can see the signs that warns that there is an impending danger. They should please give information to us. And I want to assure them that any information given to our commanders on ground will be treated with utmost confidentiality. We must all work together to defeat this evil represented by bandits and criminal gangs in our country. Thank you.
First thing is for us, our response is to come here and see the communities, to also commiserate with His Excellency, the Governor of Benue State, and the good people of Benue State. Like the IGP mentioned, this is one too many killings. We're tired of innocent souls being killed, and we're here to ensure that we address such. From now, I'll be going to see my commanders, and we have to change our strategy. We want to look inward and see how we can address it. But like we mentioned, we cannot do it alone without the community, without the state. We need everybody to be part of it. We understand that even before now, we used to have, even within us, people that compromise and give information. Because going around, you see the way some of the burnings were made, they were targeted, and which means they had insiders. And so I've discussed with the communities, the traditional rulers, with the clergy, for us to work united. There have been some issues on trust, and that we're going to address. For us, like I said, we want this to be the last one that will happen. We're going to go all out to ensure that we address it. We have put in measures in other places and it has worked. Here is not going to be different. I want to assure Nigerians that not only Benue State, all over the country, we are determined, based on the mandate of Mr. President, to ensure that we restore peace and tranquility within our country. But we need Nigerians to support us. We must work together as a team. We've also had the information that sometimes some of these people come across borders. Wherever it is they're coming from, we're going to go after them and take them. So we must take the battle to them, not waiting for them to attack. And that's one I think is very, very critical. Tomorrow, hopefully, I will also want to proceed to Nasarawa State to see His Excellency, to be able to, because the borders are actually very critical to the success of what. For the youths, please don't give up. This is our country. We can never, ever give our country up for anything. And this madness must stop and it will end. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Those words there from the General Christopher Musa there, who's the head of the Nigerian Armed Forces there, giving us a little speech on the attacks.
I like that. I like that. I mean, this is tough statements made from the IGP, making it clear that very soon it's going to be over.
Right.
Also, the army also speaking about changing strategies, which is also good. One of the things that we saw during the former president's administration, talking about former President Muhammadu Buhari, was that when insecurity heightened, we did see some of the security chiefs and operatives come on live TV and explain the processes that they're going to use to fight insecurity.
Right.
Which many had condemned then and say, it's like trying to tell a thief that, listen, we're going to put light and at night we'll turn it on at 12. The thief would have a glimpse of what you're about to
tactics,
do. But
yeah.
I'm happy he didn't spill too much. I mean, that's the professional way to do it, just stating clearly. However, I have a worry and a concern. And my concern here is, could it have been a case of the boy who cried wolf, in a sense that it was taken in that light? How do I mean? The governor of Benue State, if you recall, few weeks ago, had been crying blue murder. He was screaming, please, these people are taking over my state. These people are attacking us. And I thought to myself, when I saw, the reaction we saw yesterday, that what if we track back? These reactions were done 4 weeks ago, 1 month ago. Would that young man have lost 20 persons, family members? Would people have died the way they died just a few days ago, over 200 persons? Would the Pope have had the reason to have spoken the way he did about Nigeria? Again, if we put it in context, maybe if we acted soon, it would have been a bit better.
Again, everything about Nigeria is that we always wait and see, and then afterwards we now become very knee-jerk reactions that we now have after. Now, we're going to play you a clip here, and the clip is from the president, his reaction regarding this attacks in Yelewata community in Benue State. Here's what the head of state, our president, the president of the country, had to say.
I sympathize those who have lost their life. I will adjust my program and go see Benue people on Wednesday.
And that's the president there, just saying that he would arrange his time and go visit the victims of this attack on Wednesday. Now, bear in mind that he finally put out a statement yesterday, Monday. These attacks happened on Sunday, and just as it had happened, the Pope, Pope Leo XIV, had already put out prayers during the Sunday Mass, a step faster than the president. Now, I wanted this to roll so I could just tell you what my own reaction to all of this is.
Go ahead.
And that is that if we cast our mind back to 2014, when the Chibok girls were taken, this very administration was opposition. And the way they went down on the then president of the country, that's former President Goodluck Jonathan, is one for the record books. They said he was slow in reaction, it was knee-jerk reaction, he didn't do anything, and literally when his wife tried to do something, the First Lady, Dame Patience Jonathan, she was also, that reaction. The body language of the president from that video is saddening. The statement has been polarizing. The reaction to the statement by the president has been polarizing, which is, evidently so, given the level of tragedy and you know what I mean. So my own take is just, you don't have to wait till Wednesday. I understand that it is a terror zone, but you don't have to wait till Wednesday. If you say that the entire nation voted for you, if you say that you want the whole nation to be behind your mandate, what you need to do is immediately when you hear that, you don't wait to be briefed, you start 200 plus and counting. In the last 3 months, how many persons have died in Benue? Benue is the food basket of Nigeria. That is food insecurity more widening and deepening, and that is communities and lives being torn apart forever. That's what I
Well said. Well said. I mean, I cannot disagree with you. I agree with you. The duration, in short, it's part of what we're going to have in light with our show today.
Right.
We're going to see what Nigerians are saying, because Nigerians have gone as far to dig out the current president's statements that he made before the then president, President Goodluck Jonathan, just like you mentioned, where he said, you're the number one citizen, you're the chief security advisor, you need to act. And Nigerians have brought it out and say, okay. Now, there's also a big conversation around this, which we're also going to have in the course of this show today. The conversation simply is, if you put River State to the right and you put Benue State to the left, which of these states...
Don't do this!
Which of these
Joe,
states,
come on!
No, it's what Nigerians are indeed talking about. And experts are already, coming in. Which of the states deserves a state of emergency now? Because the killings haven't stopped. They've continued non-stop. So which of these states deserve to have a state of emergency? And that's a different kettle of fish that we need to discuss. But I agree with you in terms of everything said.
Knee-jerk reaction, misplaced priorities. I mean, if the president is more concerned, I mean, from what we've seen in Rivers State, we're going to bring Rivers State, and just to add to what you said, you're more concerned about the number of barrels that you're producing per day to meet your quota. To keep the economy going. But also, agriculture is also important. If you're keeping the economy going, who are you keeping it for? If they're dying like flies in Benue. I hate to use that analogy, but it is saddening.
But this doesn't mean that we do not commend the fact that the security chiefs had stepped in yesterday. The only thing I've mentioned here on this show, and I know a lot of persons have also said, even some of our callers, is, could it have been done earlier? Because if it were done earlier, we don't think the number of lives that were lost would be up to this number that we have now.
Absolutely.
And I'm going to go back to the story of the boy who cried wolf. They could have thought that the governor was the boy who cried wolf. He kept crying and nothing was happening until it became clear. And then they had to make a decision. But then again, that's practically all that we're going to take on our wake-up conversations today. Today, we're really going to dedicate the show looking at some of these tragedy that has happened in Benue State, but that doesn't mean that we don't have other conversations, because we absolutely do. Our guests will be joining us in the course of the program. Plus, our correspondent who is down there in Benue State will be joining us, giving us some more feeders and information on what the situation truly is like. Is there calm? The protest is still ongoing.
Because we saw those visuals of the live protest that happened yesterday. Mothers, fathers, sons, daughters of the soil outside protesting for an end to the killings.
I agree with you. So we have all of this covered. It's myself here, Joe Hansen, and of course, Cliff, who's here with us, and we'll be doing this for today, and of course for the next 48 hours, or better still, which also has to do with tomorrow. But let's bring to you what our top stories are today on Breakfast Central. Today on Breakfast Central, our top stories: President Tinubu plans emergency visit to Benue. A statement he made yesterday. Going to really go down with some of the persons that still Nigerians.
Yes, indeed. We'll also be assessing governance under Tinubu-led administration and the APC in disagreement ahead of 2024. 2027, I beg your pardon.
That's right. You can see the video there, the chairs and everything being thrown. Federal government vows to end Benue killings. We talked about that. We would go deeper and find out the processes.
And finally, we will bring you the newspaper's front pages, give you in-depth analysis right here on Breakfast Central. And we start with the top stories this morning here on Breakfast Central. Nigeria's President Bola Tinubu is scheduled to visit Benue State on Wednesday following escalating violence and continued killings in several rural communities. Now, this visit comes amid public outcry over government response or lack thereof towards the worsened security crisis. Let's bring you a visual there from...
Absolutely, from the president as well. But before we take that, let's also tell you that Benue has seen repeated attacks over the last few months with rural farmers and families caught in the crossfire. The president's visit is meant to offer reassurance, but questions loom. Will this be just another stopover or the start of real action? Well, we do have joining us to give the state government's reaction to the outrage and protests that have followed these attacks, the technical advisor on media and strategic communications to the executive governor of Benue State, Mr. Solomon Dalung, who joins us this morning. Thank you so much for being here.
Good morning, and good morning, viewers.
Good morning.
Good morning to you.
All right.
Hey, Mr. Solomon, first of all, let's just start by saying that our heart goes out to the community, Yelewata community, and all of the environs surrounding that community. Our heart goes out to them at this time. Just seeing the numbers and, of course, just the heart-wrenching videos that have now proliferated social media. But let's start with an overview of what the state government knows so far about the attacks. Who perpetrated the attacks? Is there official numbers as regard the killings? And what's the next step forward in rebuilding the lives and the community?
Yeah, thank you very much. It's actually a very sad time for all of us in Benue State. All of us are in mourning. The governor is not happy. Everybody's sad. It's been a very trying moment for us, especially in the past 2 months. What we know so far is there was an attack on the Yelewata community about 2 nights ago or so. And so far, the number we have is about 127 have been buried already. 18 are yet to be buried. 2 are in the morgue. They just discovered about 4 bodies yesterday again in the bush. And so the count could still be on. And then we have people who have been burnt completely to ashes that are unidentified. And so this is the situation we have on ground. And we heard that the attackers came somewhere around 10, 11 p.m. of the night. What they did, first of all, was to attack the police station, the police station, the outskirts police station that is there, and then the military post that is close by. They were repelled back a little bit, and then they moved further into the back of the village where they started attacking people very massive. They slaughtered, they killed, they shot at, and the bloodletting was quite massive. It's quite heartbreaking for us here in Benue State.
Very sad indeed. Yesterday we did see the arrival of security chiefs, and we did also play their videos where they had spoken and talked tough about ensuring that security is back within the state. Can you share with us what the people of Benue State are indeed saying regarding the fact that they wish these security officers or operatives had arrived earlier? And what's their take on the recent statements made by the security operatives? Can you shed more light on this?
Yes, I must admit that the security operatives for now did not meet up to the expectations of the people. I'm talking about the cries of the people and what they're saying. And of course, we also, to a very large extent, will agree with that because certain measures have been put in place to ensure security around the state. Because as you said earlier, this is not the first time we're having this attack. There have been series of attacks all over. And in Yelewata particularly, where these attacks took place, it's a town close by the roadside. There is a checkpoint, a military checkpoint, where you have at least about 15 people there in that checkpoint, and then there's a police station, an outskirts police station, where you have at least not less than 5 to 7 officers that are in attendance every other time. And so the efforts that were made, we feel were not strong enough. So when these people visited on the instruction of His Excellency, the CDS and the IG of Police, they came with clear instructions from His Excellency to put an end to all of this. And what the CDS said yesterday that was encouraging to us is, well, the strategy that has been used before, if that is not working, of course it's obviously not working, then we should change strategy. And he's coming now with a mindset to change strategy that has been used before, and it's not working. Obviously it's not working. And so there has to be a rejigging in their thoughts on how to put that forth. The arrangements are such that security is in the hands of the federal government, and security forces are sent to us as every state is allocated officers. And so what we have is inadequate. But when the Chief of Defence Staff came around, he deployed about 3 battalions, 3 units of soldiers, in addition to what is already on ground. And then the IG rather came in with another force. And then the Chief of Defence Staff also came in with another set. And so we are hoping that with the little efforts that are being added to what has been on ground already, things are going to be much better. But I can assure you, I can tell you for a fact, and it's understandable that the people are angry, the people are not happy, and nobody will be. All of us are Benue citizens and we're feeling the heat. We're feeling, it's a sad one. But hopefully, with this visit, things are going to change. And the president has promised to come in on Wednesday. We've had this kind of visit about 7 years ago, but we still are here where we are. We're hoping that this visit is going to cause a total turnaround in things to bring safety back to Benue State. We're the food basket of the nation, for heaven's sake. If we don't put food on the table of Nigerians, what are we going to have in the near future? You know, and so we're hoping that the visits are going to bring a total turnaround in the state for us and for the rest of the middle belt to be at peace.
Well, we saw protests that broke out on Sunday following the attacks in Yelewata community. I want to ask what's the latest with that protest, the demands from the protesters, and what is happening regarding the governor's office as they work in tandem with the security forces.
Yes, they protested basically because of what is happening, and of course, they have a right to do that. Everybody has a right to cry out, and that was their own way of venting out their anger, that nothing has been done about security or is not being done enough. And I can tell you that His Excellency has done exceedingly well, and I'm not praising him because I'm a spokesman. But if you come to Benue State, there are lots of efforts. I think I've spoken on this television before, and I told you what His Excellency had done on his own part, providing about 100.
Okay, we seem to have some. All right.
Motorbikes going to hinterlands to be able to reach out to areas that cannot be reached if vehicles cannot go. And then, in addition to that, operation.
All right, little.
Good enough. And so when they cried out, we heard them. And the deputy governor went there on behalf of the governor, spoke with them, and told them to come. And the efforts have been made. And they have made a demand that the killings should be stopped. And as the governor gave assurances through the deputy governor, everything is being done. In fact, the governor is more determined than ever before to ensure that this killing, this menace is permanently put to a stop, so that Benue people can have their peace of mind to go back to their farms and take their place on the food basket of the nation.
All right. I mean, we do understand that the president is looking to visit the state. That will be tomorrow. He did make a statement and talking about clearing his schedule to be there, although that statement has been met with cross-criticism from Nigeria and saying, why would the president say he needs to clear his schedule? I mean, what's more important than a single life of a Nigerian? Talk less of over 200 persons, but we'll be delving into that later on. But can you share with us what concrete demands, especially, will the state present to the president, and what do you think is expected from the president upon his arrival tomorrow?
Well, thank you very much. I'm very hopeful that as I said earlier, the visit is going to bring some permanent change to what we already have on ground. But of course, we are hopeful that His Excellency, the President, should be able to, in addition to what is already on ground, give us much more support in terms of security operatives, to give us more backing in terms of relationship between us and, of course, the National Security Office, in terms of information sharing. We're hopeful that when he comes around, he's going to give more directives. You know, as we keep saying over and over again, security in Nigeria is in the hands of the federal government. It doesn't matter what the state does. When you say the state government has security votes and all of that, that is how far directives from the state governor can go. But when they come from the national level, they seem to be taken more seriously. There are situations where we have heard that operatives are directed to go somewhere and then they receive another instruction from authority from above saying they shouldn't. And so we're hoping that there will be clarity of understanding between us and the operatives that are left behind for us to work with us, in addition to what is being brought, so that we're able to handle this thing more headlong. And of course, we're expecting that by the mercies of God, with the instructions and the additions of the security operatives and the cooperation between us and the National Security Office, of course, which is the Office of the National Security Advisor, things are going to be much better for us. All we're looking for is peace. And hopefully we're going to attain that by the mercies of God after the visit of the President.
Now, this has been continued attacks on Benue State and the Middle Belt, but Benue have been hit hard since 2023. In fact, we have a stats that we can just pull up for our viewers to look at the numbers. At this time, the attacks and killings have totaled about over 1,000 from May 2023 up until now, and the problems still persist. Now, the president has called for an end to the killings, but what really and truly would look like an end? What exactly is that end? Do we know the perpetrators of this crime? Do we see a pattern? What is the intelligence that can aid in ending the killings in Benue State?
Yes, we have heard, you know, we have said this, that my governor, His Excellency Reverend Father Dr. Hyacinth Alia has said this time and again. If we give you a little background to what is happening, the herders have been around for a while. In those days, before now, when a cow got into the farms of the farmer, there were settlements. There could be disagreements, but there were settlements. And then it came to a period about 14, 15 years ago when these people began to carry herds around with arms, with AK-47s and AK-49s and all of that. And instead of settling the problems they had with farmers, started shooting at them and killing them when there were issues between them. And then it has now graduated to a point where, as my governor says, these people are killing to occupy. Now, the set of people we have now are a bunch of criminals and rogues that carry arms to kill people and displace them. Most of them come in their numbers. You see them on bikes, 200, 300 of them at a time, without cows. They come in arms to the teeth. They clear out a village. They go back and come back again to the same vicinity to make sure nobody remains there. And what you're having is them occupying these areas after they have done the massacres and the killings. Because out of fear, the people run away and leave their villages. And so what we need, and we hear, this is not happening only in Benue, it's happening across the country. So it's a national problem. And the federal government needs to stand up much more than what it is doing. And thanks to the president, he said he's moving into that to ensure this happens. So if we have the cooperation, we're hoping that things are going to turn around. So we're having marauders, we're having bandits, we're having killers whose aim is to annihilate the whole people, to kill them, to destroy them, and to take over their lands. So it is not what we used to have in those days where we had farmer-herder clashes. This is not a clash. This is not a clash anymore. They're coming to kill our people and take over the land. Because in a clash, you fight me and I fight you. But in a situation where you come and attack me in my sleep, you come to a vulnerable village and attack them in their sleep and kill them in their numbers, burn their bodies beyond recognition. That is no longer a craft. And so we're calling on the federal government and every securities operator and the operatives involved to put in more, like the CDS said, change the technique if it's not working. Bring up another way of working. Because we can ask the people, the governor has not asked anyone to take the laws into their hands. If you ask people to take the laws into their hands and begin to defend themselves, this country is going to become ungovernable. That's not what we want. That's not what we're looking for. We want peace.
All right. Anyway, well, I think you've been able to highlight some of these benefits of having security chiefs and the president who will be coming tomorrow. But I want to say thank you so much. And once again, our condolences goes to the people of Benue State. Thanks for sharing your time with us here on Breakfast Central. Thank you.
I appreciate you for having me. I look forward to talking with you again when things get much better than that.
Absolutely. We look forward to that as well. Well, as we exit our guest group, please join us as we welcome our second guest who will be joining us here, Chief Dennis Bobo. He is the President Association of United Farmers of Benue Valley. Chief Bobo, I want to say thank you so much for joining us. But first of all, more importantly, our sympathies and condolences go out to you and your community at this time in such a very saddening time indeed. Now, Chief, if you can hear me, we understand that your members, I mean, they've buried loved ones, you know, they've abandoned fields, left their livelihoods, and what they know as, you know, their way of life. What does a presidential intervention will mean? What would it mean to farmers who feel forgotten, especially at this time, as the president prepares to arrive today in Benue State?
We do not have a clear connection there to speak with Chief Dennis Bongo, but just to clarify, we're hoping to talk with him because he's the President Association of United Farmers of Benue Valley. And remember that this clash has also been hinged on headers, farmer, crisis.
Yes.
And it would have been good to have him speak with us. Let's hear from the farmer side.
Yes.
What the problem really is. Who are these headers, or in quotes, these Sicilians? Where do they come from? I just wish we could really speak with them. Right. Unfortunately, network doesn't seem to be clear.
As we try to establish connection, also do remember, if you just tuned in, we're speaking to the technical advisor, I beg your pardon, on media and strategic communication to the executive governor of Benue State, and that's Mr. Solomon Dalung. And he was talking to us about, you know, what they know at this time regarding the attacks in the state. He also did not give us a specific number. It says they're still counting, and up until yesterday, they were still finding more dead corpse in the bushes. Now, we understand that Chief Bongo is back with us. Chief, can you hear me? Chief seems to be having issues with connectivity. Let's switch gears, shall we? Steph, let's bring in our correspondent, Joshua Mari, who has been live in Makurdi, Benue State, giving us all of the in-depth analysis going into the communities there. Joshua, first of all, well done on all of your hard work and giving us all those visuals and speaking to the persons who these attacks have affected. What's the situational report? What do you know at this time regarding everything?
Well, good morning to you, to Judith and Joe. I am live at Makurdi. As you can see behind me is the famous food basket that welcomes you into the city center. Well, I was at the community that was affected by this incident yesterday, and I spoke with many of the residents of that area. They are still reeling from the loss and the tragic incident that unfolded in the late hours of Friday, walking into Saturday morning. Well, it is unfortunate that this particular community has suffered this attack since 2001. They told me from verifiable sources that they most of them, they are particularly displaced persons from other parts of the state here, and they had to find their way to Yelewata community to settle down. Most of them, who are farmers, have suffered this great loss, as most of their products and produce from the farm, they've been consumed. I spoke to a man who lost millions of naira. He even told me that one of the reasons they don't have yams in Benue State is as a result of this farmer-elder clashes. So I got to intimate the man, and he told me that the persons who are responsible for this attack are herdsmen, particularly mentioned Fulani herdsmen. I questioned him further if he was sure that those particular persons, as alleged, are the ones perpetrating this disastrous act and distasteful act in that community. And he told me yes, that they spoke in a particular dialect when they attacked, and the way they attack in a coordinated form. Now this raises another question to Nigeria's intelligence, and as to how this intelligence is being treated, and how these persons who are fond of perpetrating this evil act are being met with the particular hands of the law. Well, he went further to tell me that they came in a tactical manner, and they swept into that community in droves while they attacked on one front, and the policemen who were overpowered, they were defending. Some others went behind the community in a surprise attack and ambushed them, and they started targeting specific houses where there were produce, targeting specific houses where there were humans hiding. It is unfortunate that these persons were left to the mercy of their own fate, and it is disastrous, because getting into that community, I could see some of the dead bodies roasted beyond recognition, burnt beyond recognition. They are now barely recognizable. What you see are bones that are transformed into ashes. It is distasteful. That's one thing I know.
I agree with you. I mean, that's a lot to deal with, especially when you are, you have to do your job in the line of work. But the president has said that he's coming. That news has filtered amongst the communities, and everyone has heard, having seen the security operatives as well yesterday. Can you tell us if this has given the residents or the communities some sense of hope? And what has the news that the president will be coming tomorrow done to the Benue community, especially Yelewata?
Well, the first thing I must tell you is that there is heavy security presence in Yelewata as we currently speak. Soldiers, tactical policemen, they've been deployed across several strategic areas of that community. But notwithstanding, there seems to be a deficit between our officers and the community members. I was previous to some kind of discussion, because yesterday they met at the parish priest's house, the parish priest in that area, and there was some conversation between the chief of defense staff and the community members, and they told him vehemently that they don't trust them. It was a shock hearing that to me. You don't trust the soldiers, you don't trust the Nigerian army, and they gave their reasons. And most times these persons are being aided and abetted by the security forces on ground. Well, it is no news that security men have taken over the area, and they are expecting the president to come in on Wednesday. Well, they are hopeful that those security presence will mean a lot, and maybe scare away some of the predators who are camping in that community. But still, I can confirm to you that some of them are beginning to pack their loads and leave that community. There's still this sense of palpable fear hanging over their heads, that if they don't move, that the worst might happen. It shows you the distrust and the trust deficiency between Nigerians and the security forces. Well, the CDS pledged that he was going to do everything in his might and power to ensure that this trust deficiency is actually erased. Also, the IGP also pledged him. We are expecting that if the president comes, he's coming alongside the service chiefs to address this situation headlong.
Address it indeed. Joshua, I must say, I know you spoke to farmers, but what about the women and children, those whose fathers and husbands were attacked and they have died in this attacks as well? Has there been any sort of provision in terms of, those who have been displaced, or, sanitary materials provided to them to just provide circa this time?
Well, I can confirm to you that nothing has reached those people's hands. Well, I spoke to them, I questioned them further that, where are you staying particularly? And they told me they've had to take shelter in primary schools, the Catholic Church, and perhaps even the police station. Now the police station, the police officers in that particular area are those extending a hand of benevolence to those ones, allowing them to sleep in the station. The parish priest too, in his own benevolence, is allowing them to take refuge in the parish in that area, as well as the primary school in that area too. But how long can this continue? Now, these questions are another approach to humanitarian response by the government. We all know that these things have been budgeted for. We all know there are appropriations for these things, and we all know that money has been sent out for these things. Well, we shouldn't wait till when the disaster catches us up in our sleep, but we should be proactive. It is more or less they are now reactive. This has been the question so far, that what is the response mechanism of the government, of appropriate authorities to disaster? It has been nothing to write home about, and it has been distasteful. So we are hoping that sooner or later these people get succor that they truly need. But in terms of humanitarian response, well, they don't have a pass mark on that.
All right, Joshua, thank you so much for the updates, and we look forward to join you. Hopefully, better still, you would join us and give us more updates as we count down to the president's arrival tomorrow and what's really happening on ground, especially on foot, for the security operative. Thanks for your time, and do well to stay safe as usual.
Many thanks to Joshua Mai there. Now, following the gruesome attack on the Yelewata community in Goma local government area of Benue State, where suspected gunmen stormed the village, killing over 100 residents, now burning homes and food stocks, and also plunging the region into the crisis. The state governor, Alia, the Inspector General of Police, IGP Egbetokun, and Chief of Defence Staff, and that's Christopher Musa, have visited the community, vowing to deploy end to the attacks on innocent communities. They say that they will deploy fresh strategies which will improve security in the area. Our correspondent, which you just spoke to, brought us the latest from Benue. Take a look at his report.
Women and children. This has now turned the community into a mecca of some sorts as high-level government officials visit to pay their condolences to the families of those that lost loved ones. The Benue State Governor Alia says that additional security personnel have been deployed to bolster security in the area and preventing further bloodshed.
We've gained their own assurances of the support. Already, we now have an increased presence of different teams and squads. And that is going to create a huge difference. They've been to the sites, we've all been there, we've seen how inhuman it is. Each person is touched.
The Inspector General of Police, IGP Egbetokun, says that although the Yelewata incident is a major tragedy, other attacks have been prevented through intensive intelligence collaboration between the police and the military.
When one incident happened, hundreds of incidents have been prevented that are not known to the public. So that this happened does not mean that we have not been deploying. We have actually been deploying. We've been working together with the military and with other security agencies to ensure that this reign of impunity of these criminal elements ends, and we are committed to this.
The Chief of Defence Staff, Christopher Musa, announced a strategic shift emphasizing increased coordination with commanders, community leaders, traditional rulers, and clergy to root out criminal networks.
We're tired of innocent souls being killed, and we're here to ensure that we address such. From now, I'll be going to see my commanders, and we have to change our strategy. We want to look inward and see how we can address it. But like we mentioned, we cannot do it alone without the community, without the state. We need everybody to be part of it. We understand that even before now, we used to have, even within us, people that compromise and give information, because going around, you see the way some of the burnings were made, they were targeted, and which means they had insiders. And so I've discussed with the communities, the traditional rulers, with the clergy, for us to work united. There have been some issues on trust, and that we're going to address.
In the aftermath of the heinous attack in Yelewata, which reportedly claimed the lives of over 100 residents, community members are hopeful over assurances of the adoption of new strategies to help nip future attacks in the bud. In Benue, for News Central, I am Joshua Imarai.
All the way from the Benue crisis, let's now tell you about the Vice President, Shettima. Well, he has called on the African nations to leverage their sovereign wealth funds as vehicles for development, urging deeper regional cooperation to tackle pressing challenges on the continent. The Vice President made the call while representing President Bola Ahmed Tinubu at the 4th annual meeting of the Africa Sovereign Investors Forum in Abuja. While speaking at the gathering hosted by the Nigeria Sovereign Investment Authority, he said that sovereign wealth funds must evolve from stabilization tools to anchors for Pan-African investment platforms. The Vice President also emphasized the need to use these national reserves to close the nation's infrastructure gaps, improve food security, and create employment for Africa's growing youth population.
There is indeed no doubt that Africa faces a development dilemma. We contend with limited fiscal space, amid rising expectations and growing demands for long-term capital to fuel inclusive and sustainable growth. None of this is possible without catalytic institutions that combine strategic foresight with sound financial discipline. This is why the Nigerian Sovereign Investment Authority stands not only as a steward of our sovereign capital, but as a vehicle for the delivery of strategic infrastructure.
Sovereign wealth funds must move beyond their traditional roles of stabilizing and wealth preservation to becoming active instruments for economic transformation. We must position our funds not just as investors, but as co-developers.
When African sovereign wealth funds and pension funds prioritize offshore investments, they inadvertently perpetuate this skewed perception of risk. This signals a lack of confidence in our own markets, which discourages both domestic and international co-investors. To counter this, our funds have a unique, powerful opportunity to rewrite this narrative by strategically investing within African markets.
Very interesting conversation there, but let's quickly bring you a recap of what we've talked about so far so good this first hour. First hour so far so good. President Tinubu plans an emergency visit to Benue State. He's looking at ensuring that he gets there on Wednesday. Plus, we talked about the federal government vowing to end Benue killings from the Chief of Defence Staff and, of course, the IGP. And you just saw the Vice President pushing for sovereign wealth fund and that conversation. But let's also remind you of what is to come up next.
Yes, indeed. Assessing governance under Tinubu-led administration as delegates disrupts APC's North-East summit over Shettima's 2027 bid there. Pins held for boosting security, reducing environmental damage in Niger Delta.
Welcome back. Since 2015, the All Progressives Congress has dominated the political scene, but dominance doesn't always mean delivery. Governance under APC has seen both reform pledges and rising concerns. Last week, former Minister of Youth and Sport Solomon Dalung raised eyebrows, warning that Nigeria may be edging dangerously close to a life presidency scenario under President Bola Ahmed Tinubu.
A serious allegation, especially in a democracy built on term limits. Dalung accuses the administration of tightening its grip on power while democratic institutions lose steam. Now, is this a cautionary tale or political exaggeration? And where does the APC truly stand on transparency, rule of law, and institutional dependency? Discussing, or joining us to discuss this further, is former Minister of Youth and Sports, as well as human rights activist, Mr. Solomon Dalung. Good to have you join us, and good morning to you, sir.
Good morning, and how are you?
I'm fine, thank you. Let's just get started. And I think the question in everyone's mind is is Nigeria's democracy evolving like the way the president has alluded to, especially during his Democracy Day speech, or is it slowly being eroded under the APC rule?
Well, Nigerian democracy is gradually drifting into absolute tyranny with the compromise of the democratic institutions like the National Assembly, which is expected constitutionally to play a supervisory role on the other arms of the government, completely, as we can see in the past 2 years, National Assembly had only presented itself as an extension of the executive arm, because almost everything that goes there is not subjected to the normal scrutiny, even where there are laid down regulations by law as to the procedure to be adapted. The National Assembly had always circumvented such processes and impose even unlawful institutions on our democracy. Then when you take a look at even how intolerant the conduct of the National Assembly leadership is as to the dissenting voices in the National Assembly, any voice that seems to oppose the leadership is suspended outrightly, even when suspension is unknown to the laws of the National Assembly, it is imposed. And then when you look at how the judiciary has been unable to call both the executive and legislative arm to order, even when they do, these orders are not to comply with. And you then look at how the Chapter 2 of the Constitution is completely abandoned by the executive arm or the government itself. So the summary of all this put together with the current wave of sole candidature, which the last time we heard of it was under military rule. So when we have it now surfacing under our presumed democracy, or diarchy rather, because currently now we have diarchy. We don't have democracy, but we have diarchy because we have a military ruler in some part of the country, while we have some elected leaders operating elsewhere. So that is diarchy, and it's not democracy. And even the attainment of this diarchy is by flagrant disregard to our Constitution. So these sum up together raises a very serious apprehension that the tendency left for us is not only sole candidature, but we will have a live president very soon.
Anyway, I mean, you've made your summation. You've talked about the judiciary, you've talked about the legislative arm, and so on. But what do you make of the current National Assembly, the 10th National Assembly, in line with what we see with our democracy? What do you make of it?
The current 10th National Assembly is the architect of this preposition I am advancing, because the 10th National Assembly in the history of this, our democratic experiment from 1999, and even with the Second Republic and the First Republic, presented itself as one of the unique assembly history will ever remember for, abandoning the people and pursuing personal interests and the interests of the executive. Reducing the entire institution, which is the institution of democracy, to not even a stand now, but they are choristers of the executive, because they've elevated themselves beyond a rubber stamp to choristers. Because if it's a rubber stamp, there must be some something for them to endorse. But in this case, this National Assembly, upon citing President Bola Tinubu stepping into the hollow chambers, they will start singing as if, like I always say, children citing their grandfather bringing biscuits for them. It's unheard of, and it is undemocratic. It's not found in any democratic culture. And the songs they sing are not even songs that promote national cohesion or the unity of the country or patriotism or nationalism. They are songs that are sung to advance the ego of the president. So we've never had this type of National Assembly. Throughout my life in this country, since I became an adult, and my participation in politics and activism, I've never seen a National Assembly like the one we have now. And that is where the masses are supposed to be represented, because the National Assembly is a conglomeration of the voices of the Nigerian people. You look at how low the conduct of proceedings in the National Assembly. There was a time the Senate President, with impunity, was announcing sending monies to the accounts of the members. And then suddenly he realized the mic was on, and he said, he was going to send email. You can imagine how the world is looking at us, that is the National Assembly of the giant, the supposed giant of Africa. So this National Assembly, to me, has performed very, very low and abysmally low.
Now, Mr. Dalung, there's one thing you said earlier, and I just wanted you to clarify on that before I move on to my next question, and that was about the term that you used to define this administration, or rather the governance that we have in present-day Nigeria. You said it was theatric, and that's because in some parts of the country we have elected leaders or governors, and in some other parts of the country we have military rule. What do you mean by that, and what parts of the country are you referring to that has military rule?
A diarchy is a form of government where you have the civilians and uniformed men jointly providing leadership. And currently in Nigeria, we have a sole administrator illegally imposed on the river states by the National Assembly and the President. I refer to it as illegally because the provisions of the Constitution was flagrantly abused and disregarded. The President was supposed by Section 305 to have imposed a state of emergency, and the conditions were also enumerated under that section. Now, the President went ahead to have declared a state of emergency. The law requires him to gazette it in a federal gazette and send the gazette to the National Assembly within 2 days of 48 hours for confirmation. The gazette has not been sent to the National Assembly. He appointed a sole administrator, proceeded to sway the sole administrator even before the state of emergency was to be confirmed by the National Assembly. And when we went to the National Assembly, the requirement of 2/3 of the members of the National Assembly approving the state of emergency was citizen, because all that we saw there were few members of the National
seem to have lost
a very ignoble process was used, a voice vote to approve it. So, by every standard, the Constitution was a breach,
right?
And you have an imposition. So that is why I refer to it as diarchy, right? Because we have a retired military man there with an incongruous nomenclature called sole administrator.
Now, Mr. Dalung, with that being established, let's now circle back to the presidency. Your comments, you raised your alarm and said that Nigeria is at a risk of, quote, life presidency by President Tinubu, right? Especially with the kind of control he has on the legislature, which is the National Assembly. And you have just pointed out over and over again just how, negligent, or should I say complicit, they have been in the past 2 years. Is this fear-mongering, or do you have more substantial claims or more substantial evidence to prove your point, or this notion that you're advancing about a life presidency by the president?
You see, history is meant to remind people of what has happened, and then to assist in predicting what the future will look like. When we were in this country, when Sani Abacha started this girl of adoption, and we had 5 political parties, each holding infamous rallies and adopting him. And finally, we had him as a sole candidate before he suddenly passed on. Now, that is a lesson for us to learn, that there was somebody who wanted to gag every opinion and everybody living as a citizen of Nigeria, whether he or she likes to impose himself as a sole candidate in a sole election where he will be the sole winner, and he will and then emerge as a maximum ruler. So if in 2025, about 26 or 27 years ago, and suddenly we now have under supposed democracy or diarchy, like I referred to it, and then we have defections first introduced into the political culture, where governors elected on the platform of oppositions are defecting into the ruling party. And then when that has not been concluded, because we don't know when that will finish, we suddenly have now the sole endorsement of the president as a sole candidate of his party. And then if you take this and align it with what I've enumerated of the behavior of the National Assembly, of course my fear is not misplaced, because this has happened before in one of the African countries. In Uganda, under the First Republic of Uganda, a prime minister having a firm control of the parliament decided to amend the constitution and declare himself president. And even within the constitution, his name was boldly printed as a president, thereby making him constitutionally the only president that will rule that country without a tenure. And that suddenly led to the end of that republic. So So my fear is not just a phobia. It is anchored on historical facts as it is obtainable in what I have referred to within Nigeria and elsewhere.
All right, sir. Finally, I'd like to ask, what's your take on the Benue State massacre? I'm sure you've been following the stories as well. What do you make of the current situation? And do you think, I recall during your time as Minister of Sports, insecurity was also a big problem, especially to the then administration, and there were calls for resignation, slowness in ensuring that they handle the situation of things during that time. What do you make out of the current situation of things in Benue State and the response so far so good from the current administration?
I'm completely devastated with the events in Benue. My heart is so heavy that fellow citizens like me, could face such very traumatic deaths where they are just maimed, killed in their ancestral homes. Well, it is true that this has been on in Benue. Even when I was in office, I had even the opportunity to prevail on the visit to Benue, and I went to Benue by a chopper to have a good view of what was happening there. I went over the state and came back and discussed extensively with the then governor and offered my own opinion as to how he should deal with the issue. I also advised the president on my own opinion as to the method to be deployed. Because this happened when the president gave a marching order to the IG, and then the IG ended up in Nasarawa, not even relocating to Benue, just for the president to discover that. So the Benue situation is very, very unfortunate. But what is happening in Benue, let me be very, very honest, is the politicization of insecurity. Yes, there are terrorists from with non-indigenous background in Benue wreaking the havoc on the people. But the inability of the state to deal with it, first is lack of a political will, and then the politicization of the situation. Because I cannot be convinced why the secretary to the government of the federation is from Benue. With all these things that have been happening in Benue, we have not had him issue statements, make visits to his home state even before these ceremonial visits that will yield no result from either the service chiefs or the president. All these are just political visits. They don't need to visit Benue before they will deal with this situation. Obasanjo did not go to Yobe when he gave a marching order to the military to flush out Nigerian Taliban in Yobe. President Musa, may his soul rest in perfect peace, did not go to Maiduguri. He was just on his way to Japan by his aircraft when he gave the marching order that when I return from Japan, I don't want to hear this. So once there is a political will, this ceremony of political celebration in the name of enough is enough, we are on top of the situation, we're not going to take this, when will it not be done? So the visit of the president is just mere a political visit. It has no value to add. You will still have this criminal emboldened. And I don't pray, but that is what will actually happen. So they need to act. We don't want to hear statement. The military does not make noise. The military is seen in action. That's how the military behaves. But we have a military always by the television issuing statement and then the president condemning. So I don't think that the Benue situation is given the listen. And I want to challenge the Benue political actors that we will hold them responsible, because it does appear that the disagreement among them is also fueling what is happening in the state.
All right. So I must say thank you for taking out the time to join us today and just to raise the alarm on our institutions and how, you know, whether it's a green or red chamber, they are the ones who are supposed to check the presidency and to be, you know, non-complacent, but better yet stand for the people as they are the representative of the grassroots of Nigeria. Thank you so much for coming onto the show. The former Minister of Youth and Sports as well as human rights activist Solomon Dalung. Once again, thank you.
Thank you very much. Right. Well, let's move away from that very insightful conversation as we will be looking at one very interesting one. I don't know, Judith, if you saw that video of the chairs being thrown.
When are we going to get to a point in our politics when they don't throw chairs over their head?
Well, they'll tell you that it's not just synonymous with Nigeria. It's what you see in other parts of the world as well, not a climb where, you know, there's disagreements, there are agreements, and then it leads to chaos sometimes, the throwing of chairs here and there. And that's exactly what we're going to discuss. But we'll do that after we come back from this break. We'll take a look at the internal wranglings. Is there any, if there is, in the All Progressives Congress due to what we saw just over the weekend in Gombe? Do us a favor. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Breakfast Central continues shortly. Welcome back. And so off to politics as a high-stakes political gathering of the All Progressives Congress in the North-East took an unexpected and chaotic turn. What was meant to be a routine endorsement meeting for President Bola Tinubu's 2027 re-election bid spiraled into a storm of protests, walkouts, and even physical altercations, all triggered by one glaring omission: Vice President Shettima. The drama unfolded when Mustafa Salihu, the APC National Vice Chairman for the North-East, endorsed Tinubu as the party's sole candidate for 2027, but failed to mention Shettima, who hails from Benue State in the same region. That omission didn't go unnoticed, with delegates storming the podium, as you can see there on the screen. In a bid to calm the storm, APC Deputy National Chairman Bukar Daluri stepped in and offered a joint endorsement of both President Tinubu and Vice President Shettima. But the damage had already been done. Let's just take a glimpse or a look at what unfolded. Analysts say this incident exposes deep fractures within the APC, especially in the North-East, where Shettima enjoys strong grassroots support. Some see the omissions as a calculated move to sideline the Vice President, possibly in favor of a more balanced ticket for 2027. Well, joining us to look into this is a former member, Delta State House of Assembly, and grassroots politician, Honorable Efe Ufobuku. Honorable, thank you so much for being here. It's right that we speak to you as a member of the current ruling party. Not just that, but because we've seen members of the opposition party cross carpet into the current ruling party, especially members from your side of the country, your state. But can you quickly describe to us what may be happening in the APC? Are there any internal fractions, especially looking at it from the northern part of the country?
Okay. Good morning, Nigerians. Thank you, News Central TV, for having me. Let me say that our party, the All Progressives Congress, APC, whether you like it or not, is a beautiful bride, and the political gladiators are like suitors. All of them are trying to cut the bride. So you should expect some level of competition. But quickly, let me address the issue that transpired in the Northeast. I think it's just a clear case of either mischief making or ignorance. Because first, the president has not come out to say that he's running for a second term. Any form of endorsement he enjoys today, either from the Northeast, the South-South, the Southwest, the Southeast, the National Assembly, all these are calls for him to run for a second term. Because he's a Southern Nigerian currently, occupying the office of president. Some of us believe that it's the turn of the South, and it's just proper that the South should do 2 terms, which is 8 years. And you look at proximity. As an incumbent president, a sitting president, he's the nearest man to the finish line than anybody who may want to come from the back. So calling on him to run for a second term via endorsement is nothing strange, it's nothing new, unlike some people try to liken it to the Abacha era. It's unfortunate that those who are even trying to compare it to the Abacha era were actually the apostles of General Abacha when he was in office. Maybe that as it may, there is nowhere in the world where you endorse or you call on somebody to run and you endorse the deputy alongside. It is not done. I think the people who try to foment trouble in the Northeast, they're just mischief makers or they acted based on ignorance. First, the person in question you're endorsing needs to accept the endorsement, the call for him to run. After accepting that, before deciding on nominating a running mate or somebody who will run with him, you don't endorse the president and endorse the deputy alongside. It doesn't work. That is not done like that. You endorse a candidate, the candidate picks a running mate. So when people say the president was endorsed and the vice president was not endorsed alongside, those people are just mischief makers. They are just troublemakers. They just want to foment trouble, or probably they are wallowing in deep ignorance. It is when the person you're endorsing has accepted the nomination, the endorsement, before he picks a running mate. So I do not think that the motion on the endorsement of that day was out of place at all. There's nothing about.
Yeah, but I do have to ask, right, about the Northeast at this point. It is a stronghold, all thanks to Vice President Shettima. Now, with what we've seen displayed at that summit, one thing is clear. The Northeast is loyal, not to the party, but to Shettima. Do you see this as well? Does the party now appear to be marginalized regarding the ranking, the high-ranking members of the party, and especially the presidency and the vice presidency?
Okay, I think it's important that we get something straight here. You cannot run for the office of vice president. You cannot pick a nomination form or expression of interest form to say, I will run only for vice president. First, there has to be a presidential candidate before a vice presidential candidate. It is the prerogative of the presidential candidate to pick a running mate, to pick a vice presidential candidate to run with him. If you ask me, my interpretation or explanation to this is that vice presidency, deputy governorship, vice chairmanship is a requirement an individual must have to run for the office of president, governor, or vice chairmanship of chairmanship rather of the council, which means for you to run for president, you must have a particular requirement. That is somebody who is also ably qualified, running with you. It is not as if a vice president can run independently. If you remember the issue that happened in Bayelsa, it was the fact that the vice presidential, the deputy governorship candidate was not qualified, that invalidated that ticket. So the point is this: yes, the vice president can be a strong local politician in the North-East. It can be on ground. They are his people. They love him. They want him to run again. But the point is that when you are endorsing a candidate, it is the candidate you endorse before the candidate decides on who runs with him. You don't endorse the candidate and the vice.
But numbers do matter. But numbers do matter when you look at it in the long run. So I'm talking about the numbers.
The numbers matter, yes, but you cannot put the cart before the horse. You have to put the horse before the cart if the cart must go forward. Once you put the cart before the horse, it means the horse will pull the cart backward. So saying that, there must be a vice presidential candidate, it doesn't work like that. You endorse a candidate first, the candidate accepts the endorsement, the nomination, then he picks a vice presidential candidate. Personally, I'm rooting for the vice president. I'm a supporter of the vice president. He's a man that is very smart, very intellectually savvy. I have observed him from the days of the campaigns till today. So if Mr. President accepts the endorsement, the nomination, and is going to run Kashim Shettima again, I have nothing against it. I will support them wholeheartedly. And again, if the people of the Southeast are also using the opportunity to make a case that they want to retain the vice presidency, it's also not out of place. The point is, it should be done within the confines of the law. It doesn't call for rancor, it doesn't call for violence, it doesn't call for fighting at all. The Northeast must prove their point. They must make a strong case to say, we have enjoyed having our son as vice president for some time now. We won't mind having him continue with you in office. It is not by fighting, it is not by violence. Otherwise, every other geopolitical zone in the north can also begin to agitate and make trouble to say they want to produce a vice president. I'm a supporter and fan of the vice president. I'm a supporter and fan of the president, but things must be done accordingly and appropriately. There's a way these things are done. You endorse a candidate, the candidate looks back and decides on who runs with him.
Again,
but again, people did not decide that because they have a vice president.
Look, what I'm asking is about the Northeast, right? And the numbers that we see in the Northeast. The support that we're seeing is not for APC. From what we've seen in those videos, it's for Kashim Shettima, right? So even though he hasn't gotten the endorsement yet because the presidency has not mentioned that he is going to run for 2027, one thing is clear. The support from that Northeast is not to the APC, but to Kashim Shettima. Should and if the president decides to run for office, if the president decides, if the president decides to run for office and decides not to pick Vice President Kashim Shettima as his running mate and chooses somebody else, what would it mean for the APC? That's what I'm asking.
Okay, so I am not a soothsayer, I'm not a prophet, neither am I a magician. I am not in the mind of the president to decide or to know what he is planning to do, as the case may be, because he has not even accepted the endorsement or the call for him to run for a second term. But like you said, that what you think is that the agitation, the support you saw from those videos, is a support for Vice President Kashim Shettima. Beautiful. The interesting part of it is that Vice President Kashim Shettima is a member of the APC. So if the support is for Vice President Kashim Shettima, Vice President Kashim Shettima is a member of the APC, it means the support is for the APC. So the point is, if he is on the ticket again for the second time, it further strengthens our party and gives us a better chance. But what I'm trying to say is that, there's a local saying in my place that it has the bucket is not bent here, not to talk about the oil spilling. That's just the truth. It's not bent here, so you cannot be saying that the oil is spilling. The oil has not spilled at all. It is not out of place for the people of the North-East to show their support by saying that as we are endorsing Tinubu, the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, we are also endorsing our store alongside. It is not out of place. All right. It is their right to so do, especially since it's their place. But be that as it may, it does not necessarily have to degenerate into rancor or crisis or violence. No, it's not necessary.
Okay.
Everyone that is doing that is either just a mischief maker or an ignorant person.
All right, so are you, in other words, I mean, my line of questions will start with, you said it's done by mischief. Who are these mischief makers? Are they members of the same political party that we saw in those videos? Or is it someone from outside of the political party that you refer to as mischief makers?
I think it's important here that we put it in the proper perspective. What I try to say is that some persons just want to, sometimes people can be, how do I put it? They don't want to climb out and they believe. Sometimes people can be too excited, they can be over-ambitious, but I know that Vice President Shettima knows that what happened there is not how it is done, and I do not believe or think that it's in support of any form of rancor at an APC gathering. When I say mischief makers, I'm just trying to make you understand that the people who may have embarked on that may not really understand or know exactly how the process works or what they are doing. It's not necessarily because they believe that Mr. President is not only with the Vice President, or the Vice President is going to be sidelined, or the North is going to be sidelined. No, it's not necessarily because of that. These things happen in stages. When we get to that stage, the critical players that are involved will decide on which way to go. But the most important thing is that you have also noticed here that it shows that the Vice President has a lot of political capital that is bringing in from the North-East into the party. And that is exactly how we want it, and it's a good thing.
All right. Let's also look at one other thing. Isn't it too early to start campaigning? Because do you agree that governance has been pushed to second place? The focus seems to be on the campaigns for 2027, which ordinarily should begin likely from 2026. But it seems like campaigns have started eagerly and in earnest. Efforts are being geared towards ensuring that the presidency retains his position in 2027, while we have a lot of issues like the Benue State issue. We also have the cases of the economy and so much more to deal with. But it seems like the APC is more interested in 2027 in securing the vote.
Personally, I would not want to agree with you at all, because political activities, when you say campaign, they have not started. INEC has not lifted the ban on campaign. INEC has not rolled out a timetable to say this is when you start a campaign from.
Well, campaign has started. We see the presidential posters every now and then, and what we just saw.
I disagree with you. I think some of you media houses are the ones that are actually misinterpreting what you are saying and maybe selling a wrong.
All right, so set the record straight.
Let me put it in proper perspective for you. A journey of 1,000 kilometers begins with a step, and it is on record politically that when the music is nice, you play it twice. Those of us of the APC believe that the music being played by APC, as led by Mr. President, is nice. It would be out of place to play it twice, or if possible, if they
like campaigning before campaigns begin.
The most important thing is this: a child that is going to sit for an exam in 2027, it's not out of place for the child to begin preparatory classes. It is not out of place. What you see is just the people in the party, Nigerians, saying that, look, as 2027 approaches, we will not mind if you run again. We are here, we are on ground, we are willing to support you. That is what you are saying. It is not Mr. President flagging of campaign. No. Personally, in my own sphere of influence, in my little circle where I have some level of influence, where I know people, I have also started conscientizing the people, sensitizing them that there's need for us to support the Bola Tinubu administration to continue for another 4 years. It is not because he has asked me to do so. It is not because we have flagged off campaign. No, I'm just trying to prepare the minds of the people. If you have to build a structure, a house, for example, you must do preparatory works, you must do site preparatory works, you must do foundation works. So you can liken it to what is going on at the moment. It's not because when campaign starts, New Central we know. New Central, you know the capacity and the ability of the people who are in APC. Well, when we start campaign, you will hear. You will know. It will be loud. It will be clear. The deaf will hear. The blind will see it.
Honorable.
That is the truth. What you are saying today is just preparatory classes, telling the president that we are here, we are for you. When you are ready, let us know. We will support you. That's all.
Honorable, it's very interesting that you say that when campaign starts, the deaf will hear and the blind will see. It begs to ask the question: what are we seeing now regarding, the endorsements and the rhetoric and body language that we've so far seen, just heading towards not even just barely 2 years into this administration? But away from that, let's look at the APC itself and its structure and the mass defections we've seen from opposition parties, as well as the strongholds that was once the PDP that have now become fully flying the colors of the APC and standing on the mandate of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Do you see these in the future causing chaos in the party, right? Because we've seen big heavyweights, you know, the likes of the former running mate for Vice President, former Vice President Atiku Abubakar, that's Ifeanyi Okowa. We've seen both governors from Akwa Ibom as well as Delta, and we've seen even all of the party structure now flying the APC flag. It begs to ask the question about what it would mean heading into 2027 and beyond. Can this umbrella cover all of these big wigs in the future? Are you certain it will?
Thank you very much. Let me quickly say here that we are not of the umbrella. And the last time I checked, the umbrella is torn, completely torn. Only the handle is left. And like you mentioned, the Senator Dr. Ifeanyi Okowa, the running mate to former Vice President Atiku Abubakar, he himself knows that the umbrella is torn. So he had to drop the handle. There's no more covering, hence he came into the...
All right, so as you've been...
I agree with you. I agree with you totally that the number of strong men in the APC, especially in Delta State, has increased. So the contestation will be tougher, will be hotter, and there'll be a lot of power pool within the party. But what I can assure you is that no matter the power pool that will take place in 2027 in APC in Delta State, one thing is sure: only one person can occupy an office at a time. It actually makes our party stronger in Delta, and it makes the work easier. The most difficult part of the work is going to be the primaries within the party, because a lot of strong men are now in the party. Once we are able to overcome that, which I know we will, then the election will be a walkover. But let me say this. Once upon a time, if you look at the pattern in Nigeria from 1999 to date, there's no time people did not migrate from one party to the other. There's no time. People once migrated from APP, MPP, and others to PDP.
Right.
People once migrated from Alliance for Democracy to PDP. Politicians want to win elections.
Right, so and that's what we saw. I mean, if you're going to cite primaries, I know we're out of time. Just very quickly, just so we can straighten things out, right? If you're going to cite primaries and just quelling tensions and making sure that the party moves forward and the interest of the party is at heart, we have seen individuals like the G5 from the PDP and Wike. Are you certain that we would not see individuals such as that or characteristics like that come out at the primaries in 2027? From the APC, with persons who are discontent with the treatment of the APC, as we're seeing these big wigs migrate to this party?
Okay, so I know that is the wishful thinking of naysayers and people who are opposed to the fact that our party is gaining ground. But let me quickly throw this at you. If you have people pulling out, maybe say like a G5 pulling out of APC, where are they pulling out to? Because in the days when people pulled out of the PDP, there was a credible alternative then, the APC. That was why some came as MPDP, some came as former MPP, some came as a part of DPP and part of APGA. Of course, the ACM bloc and the CPC bloc to form the APC. But I'm saying to you, look around the political terrain. The alternatives that we have are all fragmented. Take a look at Labour Party. You have the Peter Obi Labour Party and you have the Abure Labour Party. Take a look at PDP. You have the pro Atiku or anti-Wike PDP, and you have the Wike-led PDP. So you ask yourself, when you pull out, where are you pulling out to? To nowhere. So it will be a case of jumping from the fire pan into the fire. So whereas people are speculating that, I do not see the possibility of that working out, because there's actually no party that is as stable as the All Progressives Congress of Nigeria today. In the country, there's no party that is as stable as the APC. All the other parties are, fighting to share the carcass that is left of it. So, like I said, for Delta, the real contestation within the primaries, once we overcome that, then we are good to go for the general elections.
Well, long shall that stability reign, Joe.
Anyway, that's right. Thank you so much, Honorable Ofubruku, for speaking with us. I'm sure if we had more time, we would continue to dissect this back and forth. But then again, I'm sure you did mention Nigerians have supported and have campaigned for the president. You mentioned the party, APC, and Nigerians. I just wanted to clarify that we can't speak for all Nigerians, just in case. I did get a message from a Nigerian who said please tell the guest that it's not all Nigerians. So I just wanted to clarify that. Thank you so much.
When I say Nigerians, I'm looking at the general scale. I'm not saying 100% that every human being in Nigeria is rooting for the president. No, that is why we have other political parties. People have a right to differ, not to support the president. But I'm saying, when I say Nigerians, you know what I'm talking about.
Yes, I mean, I agree in your context, but
many
for the benefit of our
viewers. Those who know how we have fared so far and where we are going, we are saying that let us continue so that we can get out of the abyss where we found ourselves. That's it.
Thank you so much for your time. We look forward to speak with you again. Thank you. All right. That does it for this conversation. But then again, we'll bring to you what we will be looking at later on the program here on News Central's Breakfast Central.
But first of all, let's bring you the breakfast headlines here on Breakfast Central. Stay with us. Very good morning to you. Let's bring you breakfast headlines here on Breakfast Central. I am Judith Atibi. We begin with the devastating incident in Benue, where a nationwide outcry has followed the horrific massacre in Yelewata, Guma local government area of Benue State, where approximately 200 villagers were killed in a brutal overnight attack last Friday. In response, the Nigerian military and police have launched a joint cross-border manhunt to track down the gunmen responsible for the carnage. On Monday, the Chief of Defence Staff, General Christopher Musa, and Inspector General of Police, Egbetokun, arrived in Makurdi, the capital, and later visited Yelewata to assess the situation and also coordinate the security operation. Musa described the scale of violence as shocking and pledged to revise the military strategy to address the evolving threat. He also raised concerns that the attackers may have received support from within the community, urging residents to cooperate with security forces. Meanwhile, in a show of solidarity following the deadly attacks in Benue, Inspector General of Police Egbetokun has met with Governor Alia at the government house in Makurdi, the capital. Egbetokun extended his condolences to the state and its people, condemning the assault as a senseless and tragic one act that not only targets Benue but undermines Nigeria's sovereignty and integrity. Alia in turn expressed heartfelt gratitude for the IGP's swift visit and the continued support of the Nigerian police force and the state as the state grapples with this crisis. This visit underscores the ongoing commitment by security authorities to address the escalating insecurity and offer support to the people of Benue during these challenging times.
I am in Benue State to commiserate with you on the sad incidents of the tragic attacks on Yelewata community in Benue State. And so also assure you of not only our commitment to pursue these criminal elements and bring them to justice, but to also assure you that we are committed to bringing lasting peace to Benue State.
The carnage that took place over the weekend, again, is was a senseless one. There was no cause for such bloodbath. But it's happened. We express a sincere gratitude to you and the entire service for before now even responding to us appropriately on all the requisitions in support of our fight against insurgencies in the state.
Away from Benue Massacre, the ongoing debate over the creation of state police has sparked differing opinions between the Inspector General of Police, IGP Egbetokun, and the Conference of Speakers of State Houses of Assembly. Now, during a constitutional review dialogue in Abuja, Egbetokun reiterated his belief that what the police need to effectively tackle the country's security challenges is adequate funding rather than the establishment of state police. However, Chairman of the Conference of Speakers, Debo Ogundoyin, argued in favor of a multi-layered policing model similar to systems in other countries to improve security at local levels. Egbetokun also highlighted gaps in the police force's operational effectiveness, particularly in joint security operations, and called for legislative reforms to enhance federal policing while allowing for auxiliary support from state and local units under strict constitutional safeguards. And off to Delta, or rather to Edo State, where the governor, Senator Monday Okpolo, has inaugurated a 14-member state boundaries committee, asking them to carry out their duties with diligence. The committee's responsibilities include resolving boundary issues, promoting peace, and driving community development in line with the government's Project Shine agenda. The Deputy Governor, Dennis Edawosa, will serve as chairman, while Ozigbo Oseinda Duke will serve as secretary of the committee. I beg your pardon. Also on the committee are former lawmaker Patrick Obaigbo, as well as Abasi Brima, Patrick Ikariale, and a representative of the Oba of Benin's palace.
Mentioned neighboring state. We have 3 neighbors. We have Ondo, we have Delta, we have Kogi. So they are not restricted just to one particular zone. For this reason, I think the people standing before me are the best people to do this job. That is why we nominated you. And I pray God will give you strength to do this for the betterment of Edo people. Thank you. Which we pledge to discharge in fairness, transparency, and integrity. This committee will strive to carry out our mission, which is to ensure accurate boundary demarcation, promote peaceful coexistence among communities, and foster development in areas affected by conflict, while collaborating with all stakeholders and actively engaging with citizens in fulfilling our mandate.
And that's all we can take on Breakfast Headlines. Many thanks for watching. I am Judith at TV. Breakfast Central continues. Stay with us.
Welcome back. Breakfast Central continues the last hour for us here, and the front pages takes center stage. Would have joining us, publisher of the niche newspaper, Ikechukwu Amechi, joins us this morning. Good morning to you, sir.
Good morning, Joe. How are you today?
Well, we're fine and we're doing good.
Good morning.
Good to have you.
Good morning.
As always, we're going to get started with the major newspapers. We've got Daily Independent. We also do have Daily Times and Guardian. Now, we will leave our phone lines open for those who'd like to call and join the conversation. But first, let's get started with the Daily Independent for today. And the very first headline that jumps at you there: we must act decisively now to secure lives. That statement there is from former Vice President Atiku, as well as the PDP and the Labour Party. Ask federal government states to stop offering condolences, offer solutions. People may be forced to defend themselves. There's more there, so my eyes there have gone sour. Joe, please help me.
Yeah. I mean, we're going to look at that. You said ask for the government to stop offering condolences, offer solutions. People may be forced to defend themselves. Tinubu to visit Benue, hold meetings with stakeholders. Inflation records sharpest annual decline in a year drops 22.9%. That's what it says. Pengerson kicks over non-inclusion of leaders who led strike. June 12. Honors. Pengerson has come out to say it's not fair. You're only giving people you call the freedom or democracy fighters. But what about those who led the strike? The strike. Benue killings, military to change strategy, according to the Chief of Defence Staff. Angry APC members accuse Wike's loyalists of hijacking party. Let's start off with the Benue killings. I think let's start off with the crisis in Benue. We've not heard your take on this issue. What's your take? I mean, it's a whole rounded scenario where you now have the governor coming out to speak, Chief of Defence Staff, the Inspector General of Police. The president also said he would adjust his schedule. It's busy, very busy schedule, in other words. Do you think, this is my question to you before you go into the conversation. You've been a publisher for decades. You've written articles as well on some of these issues, and you've looked at how presidents speak. I'm sure you've analyzed many October 1st presidential speeches, State of the Nation addresses. Do you think that sentence was akin to what the expectations were, especially from Nigerians, saying you would adjust your schedule? What does it mirror in the true sense of what we're going through?
Very critical question.
Joe, you see, what can someone say on this issue that has not been said? If you remember, just last week, here, this issue came up, and I asked the question. I said, who has been arrested? Who is being tried for the killings in Plateau State about 2 or 3 months ago?
Yeah.
Look, we are all living in denial. You asking me about the president saying he's going to cancel his scheduled trip to Kaduna in order to visit Benue State on Wednesday. That's tomorrow. There's nothing about this president and his presidency that surprises me. And I've said so many times on this platform. Bola Tinubu is one man who, as president, has perfected the act of putting the wrong foot forward on every given occasion. He has done so again now. Now, let's go back to the Constitution. The fundamental objectives and directive principles of the 1999 Constitution which captures the freedoms of Nigerians and all that, the most fundamental freedom is the right to life and the right to human dignity. And the primary objective of government, as also captured in the 1999 Constitution, is the security and welfare of the citizens. It is as simple as that. Now, you wake up and over 200 citizens, Nigerians, are slaughtered. I don't want to use the word killed, because if you use killed, it
light.
It doesn't bring out the weight of the tragedy that has befallen our people. People are slaughtered in their sleep, burnt to death. And for several hours, the president could not comment. It only took
24 hours, more like.
It only took Pope Leo in Rome to address it in the morning, on Sunday
Mass,
before the president issued a statement through Bayo Onanoga. In any other country, that the massacre in Benue State over the weekend could have prompted a presidential address. The president could have woken up from sleep just as the news is breaking, and there will be a special broadcast giving orders as to what to do. But what did we see? The statement that was issued by Bayo Onanoga simply asked the people to go and reconcile and live in peace with their neighbors. Did that strike any destiny in you? That was the same statement Muhammad Buhari made when leaders of Benue State met with him after similar killings, that they should live in peace with their neighbors. Who are you reconciling with? Now, this latest tragedy, from the reports we are getting there, about 7 families were completely wiped out. 7 families.
We even have one that has, he lost 20
of his family members.
There's a woman who lost the husband and 4 or 5 of the children.
Yes.
So who are they reconciling with? This is genocide, staring us in the face, and a government, a president that swore to uphold the Constitution and to do right by everybody is telling aggrieved citizens that that we all live in a house with different rooms, and therefore we must live harmoniously. Who does that? Who does that? Who has been tried? Let me ask that question here again. Who has been arrested? By now, we would have seen people arrested in Benue State. Instead, people that came out to protest were tear gassed by the police. Those who did the killings are there. Now, there are hundreds of thousands of Benue people that are living in IDP camps. And some of these people have been in IDP camps for more than 6 years. And people are living in their ancestral homes. And we call ourselves a country. How?
Mr. Mitch, I have to ask you, and just 2 questions. Number 1, given the incessant killings that Benue have seen dating back to Muhammadu Buhari's administration, and now 2 years into President Tinubu's administration, should there be a call for an emergency, state of emergency on insecurity in the state, given how dire the situation has started? That's the first. And then the other part of the question is the body language that we've seen on the presidency. They have said that this is, I remember when he was saying the state governors, I think he was giving a speech on insecurity and said that state governors ought to, be proactive in the insecurity situations in their state. Somewhat trying to say that it is in the bulk of the work is in their court. Should it be named or pointing fingers or leaving the bulk of the work to their desk? Because clearly they can't handle it by themselves. Or should there be more concerted efforts by the presidency?
Does that make sense? This president has also perfected the art of passing buck.
Yeah.
We have only one president and commander-in-chief of the armed forces of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. And that's the man whose name is Bola Ahmed Tinubu. It is not Reverend Alia. So this idea of saying the governors, how? Does the National Security Advisor report to a governor? Does the Chief of Army Staff report to a governor? Does the Inspector General of Police report to a governor? They report to the president. He is the commander-in-chief. And there are no two commanders-in-chief in this country. Now, how do you justify the decision? You asked me the question whether a state of emergency
should have been declared by now.
Should have been declared. Does it not worry you that some people threw knockout in quotes in Port Harcourt and President Tinubu south magisterially in Asorok and say he cannot
in less than 24 hours
fold his arms and allow any part of this country go up in flames and declared a state of emergency and did what is illegal, sacked an elected governor and imposed an unelected person who is there illegally up to today. And this same president is there, 200 people slaughtered
and counting.
And counting. And he is asking for reconciliation. Does it make sense? Look, Tinubu is only playing politics. And this is why I feel sad that politics trumps everything in this country. Why he cannot open his mouth and address the issue as he ought to is because he does not want to offend the people who are killing Nigerians.
Those are heavy allegations.
Yes, yes. But that's the only explanation that any reasonable person can deduce. Why are we not calling out names? Who are doing these killings? Who are their sponsors? Are they spirits? If you are asking people to go and reconcile, it then means you know who the warring factions are. Why are you not calling out people? For crying out loud, look, even if, for the sake of argument, we agree that what is going on is reprisals like killings or whatever, only the state, and through a constitutional means, has the right to take the life of a citizen. And you must be tried. And the judges duly sentence you to death. You can't whimsically take away life. Now, people are killing, taking away lives of your citizens, and you cannot do anything. Where then is the state?
The state itself has always, Joe, I know the ball is in your court, so permit me to just
go ahead
with this
question.
Go ahead. I know that the Nigerian state itself has this repentant approach to terrorists. We saw that with Goodluck Jonathan's time, and we saw that during it started with the militants, armed militants in the Niger Delta, and then he moved to Boko Haram, where, we pardon them, we rehabilitate them, and reintegrate them back into the community. And now we're seeing this with the herders and the bandits as well, armed bandits, where they are repentant and they come back into the fold. Does that approach harm our system itself?
That politics of appeasement, and this is why I said, the only thing, the reason why Jonathan continued to appease until he was pushed out of office was also because he wanted to please people so that he can continue in office. And that is what is again happening now. All I'm saying is that the president has all the intelligence in Nigeria. They report to him. They know those who are behind this.
Right.
If the Nigerian state claims not to know those who are doing these killings in Benue State, then it has no reason to exist.
All right. Let's take a caller. We do have a caller who's called in. We have Salisu who's calling us. Salisu, good morning.
Good morning. How are you, my dear?
We're doing great. How are you today?
Thank you so much.
Go ahead.
How are you? Oh, that's good. Well, honestly, the American said it for us. We have only one chief commander-in-chief in the country. This killing is unnecessary. I think if there is anybody that will be clear set of urgency in Nigeria, maybe we need that person now. The killing is too much. It's too much. How can you slaughter 200 people at once? Are we in a war with other nations or what?
And your TV is on, your television is on, so we're hearing a feedback. If you could turn it off and you still want to make comments, would give you a little room to do so. Can you go ahead? All right, anyway. Let's go back. I'd like us to quickly touch on another newspaper, which of course still highlights the insecurity challenges we have. Let's go to the Daily Times this morning. Let's see what the Daily Times says. Insecurity. Tinubu postpones Kaduna trip, heads to Benue Wednesday to tackle ongoing crisis, is what we see there. APC North Central Forum says Tinubu can choose anyone as VP. I'd like us to look at that in our conversation. Education tax, TET fund generates 1.24 trillion naira revenue in 5 years. Alleged defamation, judge rejects federal government prayer to order Natasha's arrest. We've been following that story as well. Atiku, Benue cannot bleed in silence, condemns unleashing of terror on protesters. No part of Abuja will be left behind in national development, according to President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. I'd like us to focus on, let's leave the insecurity issue now a little, let it breathe. Let's go to the APC. I know you are aware.
Yeah, but
did I just say that word?
Yeah, but very quickly, we understand that we have a caller. John Paul is joining us. If I'm correct, John Paul is joining us live from Abia State, from Enugu, forgive me, from Enugu State. John Paul, a very good morning to you.
Good morning.
Good morning. Please go ahead with your submission this morning.
Yeah, I'm just listening to the first man there. And he said the whole thing the way it is. He's blunt, and I love the way he's calling names, though he has not mentioned specific names, but the way he's saying it, is that what's supposed to be? But I want to ask something. Why are we not sacking some people who are holding the security architecture of the country? Because I believe that as a commander-in-chief, if you are CEO of a company, you should have the ability to hire and fire. If you hire a good person, you commend him for doing a good job. If the person you hire is not doing a good job, you please release him from that job so that he will not hold the clog of the wheel of the nation moving. For goodness sake, we have intelligence community, we have NIA, we have DSS, the military, we have DMI. Then we have the military themselves. Are we saying that the country does not have intelligence of those people doing this thing? You know, it boils down in what the T.Y. Danjuma said, that we should all defend ourselves. You know what it means that T.Y. Danjuma has intelligence on what is happening, because he was former chief of staff, chief of army staff. And it only boils down on what the president DSS director said, that we all should defend ourselves. So what I have to say in my own opinion is that the Benue people think the government is failing them. For goodness sake, the issue of Benue has started ever since, even before Obasanjo. People have been dying over and all this is the upper land. Somebody wants to grab the land of Benue State. And the government is looking at it that way. Now it's escalating to the level where they want to take the whole of the state. And it's trickling down to every state of the nation. Now if you look at this Nassau, it's going to Nassau down to Benue. Now it's going to Enugu. So maybe now going to Ebonyi State and Anambra. So no, it's us. And all this what is happening and that's my concern. People should be allowed to defend themselves if the government do not want to do it.
John Paul, I think he's said it all. But before we go back to the insecurity crisis in Benue State, we were talking about a summit that was held of the APC. Videos have been circulated. We also spoke to a member of the All Progressives Congress where he said that there are just few persons who he tagged to be
mischievous characters
and wanted to cause a fire, as it were. What do you make of the APC's stance, especially members of the party in the North-East, where they said if there's no Shettima, then there's no voting for President Bola Ahmed Tinubu?
Again, the people in government, they are living in denial. And this is a government that has perfected the art of propaganda. Every discerning Nigerian, if you have an idea of what is going on in government, will know that Vice President Shettima is an outsider. He's an outsider. He has been locked out of the government. And it will not be a surprise if Tinubu decides not to run with him in 2027. Let me come.
Right.
In 2027. And what they did in the North-East is like flying the kite. You went there, and that's the zone
where the second in command hails from.
Of the vice president.
Right. I'm going to just put a bit of pin on it because I'm being informed we have another caller. Dennis from Edo is calling in. Dennis, good morning to you.
Yeah, good morning, Mother.
Good morning. If you can turn off your television completely so we can hear us instead of...
Good morning, Mother. Good morning to your colleague there and the guest. I think the guest you had on the table had spoken very, very eloquently and very clear to all Nigerians. Get to the point. You see, Madam, for the leaders we are having at the present time. Mahabli. Look, I want to make an example. Look at what happened in America. A mass shot, people dead. Just 3 senators, if I'm not, quote me if I'm wrong. Under 48 hours, he was caught. He was apprehended. Does it mean that we don't have intelligence in this country? A country of about 240 million is a shame. I'm sorry. We have to speak fast. My heart is bleeding. My heart is bleeding. The man who called from Enugu said it right. The president has right to hire and to fire. What is he doing with these dormant? I call them dormant. They are not active. If they cannot use kinetic, they can use other means to tackle this insecurity problem. How can 200 and something people die and the president will be in Asuro relaxing? We have to speed it fast. But they have money, they don't have money to buy technology. To solve this problem once and for all, but they have money to buy SUV. Madam, I'm sorry. It's good to let the cat out of the bag. I was in my office watching when our dear, I respect him, our able president came to Lagos for Salah. I counted the SUV, ranging to about 50 SUV as entourage. What is that for? What is that for? We should call it spade a spade.
I want to use the opportunity to sympathize with the people of Benue. Yelewata, I don't know if I pronounced it very correctly. I sympathize with them.
Thank you.
Thank you for calling. Back to your summation of the APC.
As I was not saying, there is no Nigerian who has an idea of how this game is played that won't appreciate where APC is going. The president has no intention of running in 2027 with Shettima. So now they are being smart by half explaining that they are still in the primary stage and that the nomination that should go on now is the nomination of the presidential candidate whose responsibility it is to pick his vice president. But for crying out loud, this is not 2023. We've gone beyond that stage of 2023. We now have a ticket of the president and his vice.
Right.
So if they are going into the race in 2027 as a team, they should tell us. If the president does not want to go with Shettima, they should not tell us. But nobody should be surprised. Nobody should be surprised. Look, when we talk about President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, it's not as if anybody has anything against him. But we are looking at a man who has no precedence. Bola Ahmed Tinubu has the record, inelegant record, of running Lagos State for 8 years with 3 deputy governors.
I was going to point that out earlier when you asked me to pull.
With 3 deputy governors. Bokona Akarele, who was his deputy from 1999 to 2003, he dropped her and went for Femi Pedro.
Yes.
Even the Femi Pedro that he picked himself, because if we say that Afenifere imposed
Pedro on him,
Akarele on him, he personally chose Pedro. He could not complete
the remaining term
his second term with Pedro.
Yeah.
He had to force him to go, and there was an Ogunleye or so.
Yes.
His last vice governor,
deputy governor, who was with him for only 13 days.
Yeah.
Just to make sure that Femi Pedro did not complete the term with him and enjoy the benefits of
a deputy
governor. That is the record of the man who is president today.
Right.
So anybody who is raising eyebrows or who pretends to be surprised is either living in denial or does not know the antecedents of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. It will be a surprise if he runs.
Because the argument that any critic will say that all of Nigeria's presidents since 1999 have always had this issue with their vice president. We saw that with Obasanjo, we saw that with the late Yar'Adua, we saw that, except for Goodluck, who was very leaning with his vice president, and we also saw that with Muhammadu Buhari. Now we're seeing this. They're going to argue that, it's all with the presidency, but I'm glad that you pointed out that this really is a Tinubu phenomenon.
Even that of Obasanjo and Atiku, of course, we know the precedent, but of course, the first 4 years, Atiku was
in tandem.
Atiku was in charge, at least of the economy. Now, Buhari and Osibanjo, despite everything, managed their relationship well.
Right.
Shettima has been shut out completely, and it will be a surprise if he is allowed to run with President Muhammadu Buhari in 2027. So I am not surprised.
All right.
Yeah, gosh.
Not being surprised. But let's see what Nigerians are saying, because that's the next place we're going to. And of course, we still have Ikechibu here with us. But what are Nigerians saying about the president's response to Benue killings? That's what we're going to next. Okay, so very quickly, let's see what Nigerians are saying concerning the all-important visit of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu to Benue State. Remember, the people of Yelewata are not happy with it. See protests erupt or take place in Benue State. But that's not just all. An old tweet of the president did surface on social media, and it was brought forth by netizens online. If you look at the screen there, just right under it, you would see President Bola Ahmed Tinubu speaking to the former President Goodluck Ebele Jonathan under the Chibok girls' stance, a crisis that also rocked Nigeria. He says, on matters of security, the bulk stops at the president's table like in other countries. Jonathan is the chief security officer, stop Boko Haram, and then it went on and on. We don't have that time to bring out that comment. But then again, Nigerians have gone ahead to dig this, and they're reacting. Now, the reaction is between the fact that should the president call for a state of emergency in Benue State, or should the president just, leave it to the security chiefs to handle? Well, let's see what Nigerians are saying, especially netizens. But please take note, these are not our views, but they are views of Nigerians who are talking on social media space. We're going to start off with the very first tweet. And this very first one, I'm going to put it quickly on the screen there. Thank you. Dear Bola Tinubu, is the bulk no longer at the president's table? Is Jonathan still the chief security officer? What's stopping you from ending Boko Haram and killings by headsmen in Plateau and Benue State? No state of emergency? 2 question marks there just to depict emphasis, okay? That's what Uromi Boy says. Another tweet very quickly. Let me project that on the screen too. That horrible videos I watched a lot about that innocent 200 citizens of Benue, Nigeria that got massacred is the most saddest videos ever. Like, why can't the government declare the state of emergency in that state? Why watching while the lives of the citizens are being wasted daily? That's another one. Let's take another tweet very quickly and see how Nigerians are reacting. Tinubu can declare state of emergency in an oil-rich state without blinking, but when it comes to states where people are being slaughtered like animals, he goes silent. Well, anyway, he spoke right after that tweet was put up. And this one says, 0 deaths in River State. Guess what? State of emergency. 200 plus Nigerians brutally killed in Benue and other states. No state of emergency. That's another question. And let's see this one. Dr. Moore says over 200 Nigerians were killed in Benue. No state of emergency has been declared. Not even a word from the presidency about after 48 hours. Yes, of course, it took that long and then they eventually spoke. But a small dispute between Wike and his boy led to an immediate state of emergency. We can't make reconciliation with terrorists and see peace. Now, that's a deep comment. Ruth says 0 deaths in River State, yet a state of emergency was declared. Over 500 lives lost in Benue. And the Nigerian government remains silent. Is this justice? That's going to be all the tweets we'll take. Let's see if we can squeeze in this last one. This is really sad. There is too much politicking and little to no governance. If not, how are 200 people in a locality killed and the IGP and army chief are not afraid for their jobs by now? It is not even breaking news. So little value for life at the moment. That's all we're going to take on the tweets coming from the social media space. We have so much, but I'm just going to allow Ikechukwu to react to these tweets very quickly in 30 seconds. So what's your take on what Nigerians indeed are saying?
What Nigerians are saying are the same things we've been saying in the last 30, 45 minutes. Look, Benue people don't want reconciliation. What they want is justice. Justice for the dead. Justice, even if we agree that some cattle or cows were roasted, justice for even the owners of the cows. But there must be justice. This is what, look, when you take someone's life, what you do with the person is not to reconcile. The state miss out justice. And everybody sees that justice has been done. All these talks about doing this, doing that, they don't help. And look at the president telling us, as if he's doing anybody a favor, that he is rescheduling his trip now to Kaduna in order to be in Benue. For crying out loud, did he need anybody to tell him that the place to be is not to stay in Abuja to be commissioning projects, that the place to be is because the values a leader should bring to the governance table should include the compassion. You are the what do you call it? No, you must be compassionate.
Chief mourner in this situation.
Exactly. You must be compassionate. You must identify with your people. Someone mentioned in
Rivers?
In Minnesota also, a gunman killed two state
assassinated
lawmakers. Within 48 hours.
He was caught. Everywhere was shut down.
The man, in fact, they say it was
48-hour manhunt.
Biggest manhunt in that state. 48 hours. The man was apprehended. Now, 3 months into the killings in Plateau State, nobody, correct me if I am wrong, but I'm not aware that there's anybody who is standing trial today. The man was charged yesterday with murder.
Murder, man. Yeah. Anyway.
But people were killed in Plateau, nothing. And the ones that have killed 200 people in Benue. And don't forget, this is not the first time. In the last, since January this year, well over 500 people have been murdered in Benue State. Now you are calling for reconciliation.
We'd like to get your reactions, especially for our viewers, who have watched us. Thank you so much, Executive, for being here. Tomorrow will be another day. Hopefully, would follow events leading to the president's arrival in Benue State. So that's all on Breakfast Central. We're out of time. Jasimi is up next. I'm Joe Hansen.
And I'm Judith at TV. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye for now.